Welcome back to a new episode of Hot Topic. I'm Gary7MT for the GTA series videos crew, and as always, click on the captions button if you need subtitles. In this episode, we'll focus on beta and removed content from 4 different GTA titles: Grand Theft Auto Advance, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories, and Chinatown Wars. There are numerous reasons why we chose to tackle all these titles in just one episode, but the main one is that these games were all minor titles created first for the mobile market. Also, there are fewer tools available for lurking inside the game's directories and files. Translation: we can't discover as much from a PC title. Last, but not least, sometimes the promotional campaigns were shorter, and with less screens and videos, we have less material available to compare what it was with what we got. As always, a big shout out to all the people who in the past searched and published content we're gonna show in this video. People like Racingfreak, ClaudX, WildBrick142, Majestic R3, Son of Big Boss, Ash735, and Silent. We also want to thank the people behind GTA Wikis, the CuttingRoomFloor.com, and obviously the GTA forums. If we forgot anyone, please let us know. We'll include you in the video description. Let's begin at the beginning with the oldest mobile-only title of the series, Grand Theft Auto Advance. The real name of this game is just Grand Theft Auto, and it's a complete top-down perspective GTA, programmed and released only for the Game Boy Advance. We are not reviewers or video game experts here to judge games or developers, but if you have a Game Boy Advance or a Nintendo DS with the GBA slot, give GTA Advance a shot. Good luck finding a new copy. There are very few available online, which makes the game one of the rarest of the series. GTA Advance was once a port of GTA 3 for Game Boy. After the huge success of the series and big failures of software houses, GTA Advance became a one-year prequel to the events of GTA 3. The game was also released with practically no pre-release campaign at all, just one trailer and less than 10 screens. Technically, this is also why there really are no beta or removed content known for this game, except for a weapon icon of an oil drum. Probably tied to 8-ball garages, this weapon possibly allowed players to use spilled oil as a weapon against hostile pursuers. Without images, trailers, articles, or previews that we can place on a timeline to check and compare with the final product, the only way to learn anything is to peek inside the files, and this game doesn't really hide anything from players. Everything available in the cartridge is accessible in the game directly or through cheats. After GTA Advance, the fate of the mobile titles moved from external developers to the golden hands of the people from Rockstar Games. Formerly known as Mobius Entertainment, this studio was founded in 1997 by 5 guys with abilities and knowledge so formidable they came to Rockstar's attention in 2003 when they were given the rights to create a Game Boy Advance version of the first Max Payne. And that was a great port. So, after Mobius Entertainment was acquired by Rockstar Games on April 7, 2004, the company was renamed Rockstar Leeds, and they immediately started work on a project that changed the gaming industry again: Grand Theft Auto: Liberty City Stories. Released in 2005 and developed as a collaboration between Rockstar North and Rockstar Leeds, Liberty City Stories is the first title that brought the full 3D GTA experience to a mobile platform, the Sony PlayStation Portable. Liberty City Stories was later converted and released for PS2, iOS, Android, and more platforms, selling over 11 million copies worldwide.
I gotta go change out of this thing, you know. Hey, Raven! Time to put away the double ender!
Undoubtedly, the huge success of this title on PSP, without taking anything away from the game itself, was in part because it became fundamental in the PSP modding scene to downgrade the console firmware and more non-legal stuff. But enough about the game itself. Let's get to the goodies we're really interested in, the beta and removed content. Let's focus now on content that was changed before the release of the title, that we can show thanks to official previews, screenshots, or leftovers inside the game. Thanks to pre-release screenshots, we can see Tony originally looked different, a little older and fatter, but definitely more badass. Miguel, like the SWAT team, were taken directly from GTA 3. And both Sal Leone and the Leones have different faces than the ones we get in the final game. Clothes were different too, from the mayor that was supposed to wear a suit during the mission A Walk in the Park, to the Leone suit, a retextured model blending the Mr. Vercetti outfit from Vice City. The hero costume was more a red and blue Mexican wrestling outfit. There are even small details changed, like the color of J.D. O'Toole's glasses, the Avenging Angel's hat, the police uniforms, and more. Things that don't make sense or just suddenly jump off in the game hint at missing or changed missions. For example, after working with Leon McCaffrey helping the Yardies, the group will turn their back on Tony and start to attack when we move into their territory. It's pretty clear that at some point the game would have featured a mission where, due to Sal, Donald, Leon, or another character, Tony would have attacked the Yardies, making them enemies.
Bing, bada, boom.
In the same way the mission Sindako Sabotage doesn't involve the Sindako family at all, but rather is about a gang war between the Diablos and the Leones over control of the Hepburn district that ends up in the Diablos' hands with no involvement from the Sindakos. And speaking of missions, texts contained in files indicate that rampages were probably named Massacre, the same way the mission RC Triad Takedown was probably named Mobile Massacre. The reason for the name change is due to the importance of the words. While rampage isn't necessarily tied to homicide, a massacre instead is. Also, inside the English GXT file, there are texts hinting at assassination contracts. It's unknown if this is a leftover from the Vice City assassination missions or if there was meant to be a new Mr. Black.
Your next shot is taped under the phone.
Inside the PSP version of Liberty City Stories are various goodies. Some available only after digging through game files, others instead can be brought back in game thanks to a tool called Cheat Device, created by a genius scripter named Edison Carter. Back in the day, before PSP modding was a reality, Edison Carter somehow injected the code of a fully functional trainer inside a save game file. The program is simple enough for anyone to run and allows players to edit the game. The first version of this tool permits editing only a few things like time, weather, wanted level, etc. But as time progressed, the cheat device became more powerful, freeing players to spawn objects, vehicles, and create maps using the in-game props. An example of these kinds of leftovers are the planes and helicopters inherited from Vice City. The Dodo, Hunter, VCN Maverick, and both the RC Goblin and RC Raider, as well as the sole terrestrial vehicle, the bus. All these vehicles were disabled, but thanks to the cheat device, can be spawned and used. Maybe the bus was removed for no reason, but it's a different story with the removal of all airplanes and helicopters. Just like in GTA 3, players in LCS were never meant to fly, but if you do, as soon as you get off the ground, it's clear why Rockstar tried to keep you grounded. Other vehicles still in files are the Toyota Supra and the Subaru Impreza WRX. both vehicles that have their own GTA renditions, respectively the Jester and the Sultan, and were probably meant to make a return in Liberty City Stories, but instead were later completely dropped. The same fate is shared by an unknown vehicle called Evidence that some state was originally meant to appear during the mission LC Confidential and was supposed to be a coroner van. How such things are affirmed is unknown, by the way. Before the Hellenbach GT found its name, it was referred to in game files as Cyclone GT. A vehicle that is instead in the game files, and thanks to a mod by Racingfreak, who converted it to GTA 3, is the Tommy. Still in the game files, but as dropped content, are two weapons, the tear gas and the Ruger. The first is a weapon first introduced in the original PS2 version of GTA Vice City, but later removed, as we already explained in the Hot Topic episode focused on Vice City, and the Ruger, a machine gun that was available in the PS2 version of the game, but again later renamed as Kruger and painted black. Other items remain in game files, but are unused. There's also a short clip of the intro music of Liberty City Stories used as a temporary Mission Complete theme before they decided on the final version. Other files still hanging around in the game are the Vice City location intro texts, and 3 different shots that act as part of a live news broadcast from LC News. By looking at the images, it's reasonable to presume that all are connected to the little cutscene we can see after finishing the mission driving Mr. Leone. Rockstar Leeds' first intention was probably to render the cutscene as a live news broadcast, but later dropped the idea.
Liberty News. The industrial action that had cut off Portland from the rest of the city has finally come to an end. Or has it? Although all the subway and ferry routes are now officially open, militant workers are continuing with their blockade in parts of the city. The elevator bridge connecting Staunton Island and Shoreside Vale has been shut down. The strikers refuse to believe assurances made by city officials over the future of the ferries.
In the aforementioned English.gxt, the file used to archive all the subtitles, names, HUD information, etc., there are leftovers from both GTA 3 and Vice City, like the names of all radio stations, city districts, and more. There's unused text tied to a debug mode that would have allowed programmers to do many things, from changing characters to locations, load or unload parts of the map, or even start cutscenes without triggering the related missions.
Don't make me laugh. You keep fucking with me, I'll put you, your friends' families, your whole fucking hometown under the sword.
Hey, relax.
And this is, more or less, all we know about the removed or edited content of GTA Liberty City Stories. Not much is known about the beta stage and the ideas behind the title, mainly because the people at Rockstar Leeds have kept mum. Same thing happened a year later on October 2006 when Rockstar released Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. Take-Two Interactive announced GTA Vice City Stories in a press release in May 2006. Today, all released versions probably sold around 6 million copies worldwide. After the first mobile title, Rockstar Leeds was able to create a new game by leaving foggy Liberty City to move to sunny Vice City. The title is another prequel of the related main game with new and returning characters from the series. Unfortunately, the game neither shared the success of the previous mobile title, nor a glimpse of the success of Vice City.
Okay, fine, just get up. Hey, get up.
And with that said, let's get to what you're here for. Thanks to pre-release images, we can see how much Vic's appearance has changed. Initially, he favored the guy from the intro of GTA Vice City, and more like his brother Lance. Homeboy also was sporting a tattoo on his right arm. Another deviation is Vic's military history. We can see a USMC on his fatigues, meaning originally Vic was to be a Marine, not in the Army.
Listen, I don't think this is for me.
And before we leave the subject of clothes, the t-shirt of the casual outfit was originally yellow and not light blue. There are other small character changes. Brian Forbes, for example, originally had a mustache and Luisa's hair was first black. Moving from characters to vehicles, we know that the Coast Guard Maverick has been cut again. But at this point, it's probably just code cut and pasted from Vice City without having a cleanup. The Kuruma, Dodo, and Top Fun van share the same fate. Just names and code lines. Vehicles that didn't make the cut, but thankfully weren't completely removed from the game are the FBI Rancher, VCN Maverick, and a police Maverick with the side door open that can be spawned with a trainer. Thanks to the Brady Games official strategy guide, we also know that the biplane's name was Pitts. However, Pitts Special is a series of aerobatic biplanes created by the American designer Curtis Pitts, so the name was dropped. There was also supposed to be a couple of boats named Ambassador and Scarab. The pictures shown in the guide are instead the Speeder and the Violator, respectively. By virtue of some images, we know that the Armadillo, on the contrary, had no rear door like the Bover 64 had no roll cage. There was also a sport bike that was dropped completely. And that brings us to weapons. Keeping with the info taken from images theme, peep out this Scorpion. According to the strategy guide, the name was meant to be Venom 9mm. Following the guide farther reveals originally the Equalizer was to be called 357, like the revolver in GTA Vice City.
You're a freaking cop!
2 weapons available inside the game code but didn't make the jump to the actual game are the landmine and the tear gas. We guess, like the Coast Guard Maverick, these weapons in the code are leftovers from GTA Vice City. The user interface of the Empire building system changed a little bit, and the Empyrean real estate became Ionic real estate. Looking at icons at the beginning, the cell phone was meant to be shown in the HUD like the tear gas grenade and the landmine. Also, the icons of a phone, a green property, a clothing store, and the shadow of a plane are inside the files but unused in the final game.
You know what? Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a real man. Let's pop.
Thanks to the Brady Games guide, we can also see how some missions changed. Case in point, during the first mission, once reaching the boat, players had to defend it from an attacker. In the final version of the game, this part is gone. Another thing the official guide states but doesn't happen in the game is that Starfish Island was supposed to be locked after the mission Conduct Unbecoming, probably till the end of the game. Also, by searching game files, we know that about 10 missions have been completely dropped. Among the missing missions are a mission from Brian Forbes after Money for Nothing, one from Gonzalez, a third mission from Lance, another from the Mendez brothers, and a final mission for Luis. One of these missions tied to the Lance brothers is Faking It, and was supposed to take place after the mission Brawn of the Dead. In this mission, Lance is trying to sell a cocaine shipment. In reality, just dust taken from knocking plaster off the walls in a construction yard.
I am a genius! Man, I gotta buy a black Coke!
What Coke? Ma stole it all.
We got a Coke substitute!
Coke substitute. And what the hell is it?
Watch and learn, brother! Come on! We're too late! They put it on the walls already!
Put it on the walls? Wall plaster is your cocaine substitute?
They never know! Come on! Smash it off the walls, we can still make this deal.
This is insane!
These are desperate times, brother. Come on.
While Lance and Victor are collecting the dust, they get surprised by security and have to kill them.
Try to keep the noise down. You're gonna attract security. That's too loud, man. Can't you bang quietly? Get rid of those security chumps. There's more security coming. Okay, we got enough. Let's go. We can use that car to get our merchandise to the deal. I'll get the car, you get a shovel. Let's get this gear in the trunk.
Later, they reach the cellar and make the sale. The seller wants to sample it, but Lance obviously doesn't want his ass in the wind.
You got the money?
And the merchandise?
You don't need to test it, man. Trust me. I trust you. I'm not even gonna count the money. This shit is shit, man. Kill them all, Vic! I got the money!
Once all enemies are gone, the brothers discover that, like the cocaine, the money is also fake.
We gotta find better quality buyers. This money is forged. You can't trust anyone these days.
Still, the best case of dropped missions are all the missions tied to a character we soon meet in GTA Vice City, Leo Teal. Now, let me tell you about Leo. Thanks to the VCPD crime tree record on the official Vice City website, we know he was a hitman, possibly involved in narcotics trade and a communications expert. This character was meant to be Vic's contact for 5 different missions. We also know that this roach coach is Leo Teal's place, where we would start the missions. One more missing side mission was being a mall security cop. Nothing left of this mission but some text, but it's all you need to understand how this simple mission works. From the start of your shift, you try to nab shoplifters before they can get the hell out of the mall. If you don't, the merchandise stolen is coming out of your pay. Oh, and don't lose more than a certain amount or your bitch ass is fired. Before leaving missions, texts, and the like, the game has hundreds of audio files and lines left out of the final version. The first examples are 3 news reports that most likely played after the missions Kill Phil and Last Stand.
Rockstar Phil Collins is set to perform a surprise concert at downtown's Hyman Memorial Stadium. Tickets are already selling out fast, though Phil has yet to set a definitive date for the show. When approached, Phil's management told VNN, Phil won't set a date just yet. His work is a labor of love, and you can't hurry love. VNN, making a virtue a vice.
The third one is just a random news report that could be played anytime.
Dozens of innocent civilians were brutally slaughtered earlier today when a lone maniac went on the rampage in the streets of Vice City. Police, fearing that this could be the beginning of a brutal campaign of butchery, are said to have issued an APB for the man responsible, hoping to bring him swiftly to justice. VNN, doling out opinions to those in need.
Most of these files are just random additional lines for characters to say during missions.
You're a soldier! Kill them! You shoot like a mujer!
Get a big enough gun, and anything's legal. That gun's okay for your boyfriend.
What the hell? Stupid boat. That's ought to fix it. This reminds me of a time in the American-Australian War. 5 of us had just killed 100 of them assholes. You still there? You got a bottle opener? Damn. Yeah, so I was in them, you know. Key gong, nay gong, bing bong, doo dong. You know, I love that time. I mean, I love the Army, man. The camaraderie after you killed a bunch of schoolgirls. Incredible.
Come on, boy. I got debtors waiting.
I'll tell you this once more. I ain't your boy.
Just get on. Damn sissy bitch.
Come on, the boy's boat is going to be pulling in any time. It's going to be rock and roll. Happens to the best of us, mate.
What? What, have I got 2 heads or something? Seriously, mate, stop staring at me. I'm just a drummer.
Look at the boy down there. He's a sitting duck, and he doesn't even know it. You're doing a blinding job, mate. Did bomb disposal give you any problems? Bomb disposal? You were serious about that? Barry, there was a bomb under the stage. It's still there, isn't it? bollocks to this!
But if these lines don't at first seem important, some are by giving us ideas about how missions were originally designed. In Got Protection, instead of just driving around picking up hoes under attack, we were meant also to drive them to work using the pimping car.
Hey, Vic. Marty said you might call by. Would you be a doll and drop us all off? We've got clients waiting.
Marty said the Cholo were giving you problems.
Hey, Muscles. This is my stop.
See you later, handsome. Thanks, hot stuff. That was fun.
The rest is just myth. Supposedly, there was some mission where Brian and Vic were attacked by the Mendez cartel. The myth's hat is hung on a single image that is actually about the mission In the Air Tonight from Rennie.
Sure. Come on.
In exchange, they're gonna give me some serious guns.
Whoa! Hey!
Not like this toy.
Okay.
Now let's move on to the mobile title that brought back the series on a Nintendo platform, GTA Chinatown Wars. Originally announced on July 15, 2008, during a cringe-worthy Nintendo E3 conference, Chinatown Wars takes inspiration from the past while looking towards the future. With a cel-shading graphics style and top-down view like the first titles of the series, the game is set in an actual 3D world, as you can see from this footage recorded from a PSP tool-edited version. Always developed in conjunction between Rockstar Leeds and Rockstar North, the game was later converted and released for the Sony PSP, iPhone, iPad, Android, and so on. And, despite losing the touch commands, the PSP version of Chinatown Wars had a bunch of additional missions and features that were exclusive, never to be seen on any other devices. But we're here to show what changed before release. Unfortunately, not much is known about Chinatown Wars. One thing that for sure changed is the color of the screwdriver used to hotwire cars. Originally meant to be blue, but later changed to green. Also, a lot of people claim the alpha map of Chinatown Wars looked really different than the final. The problem is that we haven't found any supposed alpha map, so there's no way to confirm this. The reason Chinatown Wars doesn't offer players a lot of removed or beta content is really because it was a game for the Nintendo DS, and those game cards supported 512 megabytes max. This forced Rockstar Leeds to hand optimize over 900,000 lines of code according to Nintendo World Report. Obviously, any game optimized so much it'll fit on one of those little game cards has to be coded tight. That means cutting any and every single thing you don't use, from textures to codes. And with that said, it's time to crush this episode. To recap what we learned though right quick, we found out a little about the story of 4 different prequels. The first title was GTA Advance, that probably hit stores at the wrong time for the wrong console. Nonetheless, Advance was still a solid title with some quirky features as well as a classic story. We then hit up GTA Liberty City Stories, the debut title of Rockstar Leeds, a humble EU studio that grew to become a fundamental cog in the machine known as Rockstar Games. A lot of things, from vehicles to weapons and entire missions, dropped from Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories have been discovered. But little is known about the beta stages of these games because the first was developed from scratch, while the second had the Forerunner as beta. Lastly, we ended this episode with the succinct but sweet Chinatown Wars, a title so revised and optimized that all the game code was manually checked to cut useless lines and free space for important features. And we didn't save Chinatown Wars till the end for nothing. The same way this game took us back to Liberty City, with the next hot topic, we'll make a similar trip looking at removed and beta content of the GTA 4 titles. That means GTA 4, The Lost and Damned, and The Ballad of Gay Tony. As always, this was Gary7MT for the GTA Series Videos crew saying, Peace out.